Hey, welcome. So today we're diving into a term you might have heard thrown around, but it's one of those things that's super important for how universities actually work: institutional autonomy. Let's figure out what it is and, why it even matters.
So let's just start with the biggest question of all, the one that really gets to the heart of this. Who gets to decide what's taught? Who does the teaching? Or how a university spends its cash? Should it be the government? Big money donors? The professors? Maybe the students? Well, it's complicated. And it all circles back to this idea of autonomy.
Before we can even get into a university's freedom, we kind of have to agree on what a university is for. What's its purpose? And really, their role is huge. They're seen as a core pillar in a functioning democratic society.
Yeah, their core mission isn't just to prep you for a job. It's way bigger. It's about creating knowledge, sharing it, and doing research that, in the long run, helps everybody. That makes universities a public good, which is exactly why the question of who's in control is so incredibly important.
Okay, so keeping that essential role in mind, let's get a real definition for our key term today: institutional autonomy. What are we actually talking about when we say that?
So at its heart, institutional autonomy is all about freedom from undue interference. And that word, undue, is the key. This isn't about a university being a locked-off fortress or anything. It's about giving it the breathing room it needs to make its own decisions and fulfill that core mission we just talked about.
And this brings us to a super critical connection. See, the freedom of the institution as a whole is directly tied to the freedom of the individual professor or researcher. Think about it. You can't really have scholars freely chasing the truth if the university itself isn't free to back them up. One absolutely depends on the other.
Now, this idea of autonomy isn't just some big, vague concept. It actually breaks down into four really distinct, practical areas. Let's call them the four pillars of freedom.
And here they are: organizational, financial, staffing, and academic. The best way to think about them is like the four legs of a table. If you weaken one, the whole thing starts to wobble. So let's quickly unpack each one.
First up, we've got organizational autonomy. This is the big picture stuff. It's the right of a university to decide its own path. Set its long-term goals and figure out how it's going to govern itself from the inside.
Then you've got financial autonomy. A university has to be able to control its own budget. Imagine if an outside group could just demand that all the science funding suddenly go to one very specific, very short-term project. This freedom lets the university spread its resources based on its own long-term goals.
The third pillar is all about the people: staffing. And this one is so crucial. It's the power to hire the best folks for the job, from top professors to key administrators, and to do it based on fair and open criteria, not because of outside pressure.
And finally, we get to what might be the most critical pillar of all: academic autonomy. This is really the heart of it. This is the freedom to decide who gets admitted, what courses are offered, what programs get created, and what kind of research is worth chasing. It's what allows a department to study something that might not have an immediate payoff, but could be huge down the road. This is where academic freedom truly comes to life.
Okay, so with all these powerful freedoms, you might be thinking, hold on, can universities just do whatever they want? And the answer is not at all. Autonomy is not a blank check. It has to be balanced with accountability.
This is the natural next question, isn't it? If a university has all this freedom, who makes sure it's actually serving the public, spending its money wisely, and, protecting people's rights? And this is exactly where that balance comes in. It's a delicate dance. On one side, you have all those powers of autonomy we just went through. But on the other, you have the duties of public accountability. That means being transparent about money, upholding human rights on campus, and actually delivering on that public mission. It's a total two-way street.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. While accountability is absolutely necessary, it can't be used as a backdoor for politicians or other groups to meddle excessively. Finding that line between legitimate oversight and just undue interference, that's the constant struggle.
So, we've defined autonomy, we've looked at its four pillars, and we've talked about the balance with accountability. Now let's just tie it all together. Why should anyone who isn't on a college campus care about this stuff?
At the end of the day, this whole balance matters because it protects the very things that make universities so valuable to all of us. It gives scholars the safety to challenge old ideas without being shut down. It lets the institution think decades ahead, not just about the next election cycle. It creates the space for the kind of independent, high-quality research that leads to amazing breakthroughs. And ultimately, it protects the university's special role as a place for open, democratic debate.
And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty big question to think about.
In our world today, with all the political pressures and economic strains, is this vital balance between a university's freedom and its responsibility to society holding up? Or is it starting to crack? That's something for all of us to consider. Thanks for watching.